And then the next step is we divide it by 2. That gives us -2. And then we square it. And that gives us 4. So if I add that 4 here, it completes this quadratic equation as a perfect square trinomial so that we can able to solve it. So let's look at another example. If I have x squared plus say 8x, what you do if you want to complete the trinomial is that you take the b, which is the 8, you divide it by 2, you get 4, you square it, you get 16, you add it, and this quadratic equation becomes perfect trinomial. So we're going to use these skills as we are moving forward. So we have been given this quadratic equation, x squared minus 4x minus 3 equals to 0. We want to solve it. In our previous lessons, we have looked at solving quadratic equation by factoring. So let's see if we can use a factoring method to do this. So when we are using the factoring method, what we do is that we take our c, which is -3 here. We use this crisscross way. And then we take our b, which is the -4 here. And we look for the multiplication, the factoring, the factors of 3, which happens to be 1 and 3. But it's negative, so one of these factors have to be negative. But when we add it, we have to get this -4 here. So if I put -1 here, -1 times 3 give me -3. Good, so it's satisfied here. -1 plus 3 give me 2. So it did not satisfy this. So it doesn't work. Let me put the negative here. So if I put the negative over here, 1 times -3 give me -3. It satisfies this. 1 plus -3 give me -2. It still doesn't satisfy this. So right now, realize that we are stuck. We cannot use a factoring method to find our zeros of this quadratic equation. That does not mean that this quadratic equation cannot be solved. That means we need another way of solving it. So it's like our mobile phones, the iPhones. Some of the iPhone 6 compare with, say, iPhone 12. The features and the programs in the iPhone 12 is have more features, more programming that you can able to do it as compared to the 6. So that means when it comes to mathematics, we need more advancing method, and that call for this completing squares trinomial. So we have to use completing square trinomial. So as we have been looking at from the beginning, how we can able to make something a perfect trinomial, we are going to use that idea. So let's go. So here we are going to take the -3 to this side because we don't need it on this side. So let's do that. X squared minus 4x. When -3 goes on this side, or if we want to make here 0, we add. Whatever we do on the left hand side, we have to do the same thing on the right hand side, so it becomes +3 here. Now, from the beginning, we said that you take your b. So here the b is -4. The next step, we divide it by 2. And that gives us -2. We square it. And we get 4. So what we are going to do is that we are going to add this 4 to this side of the equation, and we have to add it to this side of the equation because we cannot cause any changes at this point of time. So we write it as x squared minus 4x equals to the 3, and we are adding +4 here and +4 here. Okay. When we do that, we realize that this side is now a perfect trinomial, whereby we can use a factoring method to solve it. So here, two numbers, you multiply, you get 4. You add, you get -4. So -2 and -2 can able to help us with this side. So that means we're going to get -2 x and another x minus 2. And remember here, when we add, we get 7. It's x minus 2 repeated, so we can rewrite it as x, only one of it, and then it's double, so we put square here, equals to 7. Let's put a belt with that 7. Now we want to solve for x, but the x is being attached by negative forces and a square. So first of all, we have to get rid of this square. To undo a square, we have to take a square root. But whatever we do here, we have to do the same thing here. So we're going to take a square root on both sides. So we take a square root here, beautifully. Repeat the same thing here. Immediately we do that, this 2 is undo, it's gone. So we get our x minus 2 equals to. Immediately we do that, when this goes away, we're expecting 2 answers. We don't really know it. So mathematician decided that, okay, let's put a plus and minus to take care of that 2 numbers that we don't know. And then we will rewrite this 7 because 7 is not a perfect square. So we leave it like that. Now I want to solve for x. The x is taken away by 2. So we want to make here 0. So what do? We add here 2, and we have to add here 2. So when we do that, we get x equals to the 2 that comes here, plus or minus square root of 7. So pretty, we are done. But as we are looking for our two solution, we can split. So here we say we are splitting it. So when we split this, first of all, we consider the plus. When we consider the plus, we get our first solution to be 2 plus square root of 7. And when we consider the minus, we get x equals to 2, this minus here, minus square root of 7. So we have able to use the completing squares to solve the equation that was not able to be solved by the factoring method. Okay, let's look at one more example whereby we're going to develop the speed and the skills. So we have x squared minus 8x plus 15 equals to 0. Remember, before you can use a completing square, the a have to be 1. So here 1, there's nothing here, we assume there is 1, so we can able to use a completing square. Even this question, we can able to use a factoring method to solve it. But I want us to use a completing square trinomial to solve this. That tells you that the completing square trinomial can be used to solve all quadratic equations at this point. Okay, so as we do it, we are going to take the c to the right hand side. It's positive, so when it comes here, it becomes negative. So we have x squared equals to negative 15. Okay. We take our b, which happens to be negative 8. Always look in front. Whatever is in front of you belongs to you. So here, the negative 8. So the b, when I talk about b, I'm looking at the standard quadratic function. This is b. The coefficient of the x is the b. So it's negative 8. What do? We divide it by 2, and that gives us negative 4. So as we said, we are developing skills. This, anytime you divide it by 2, that is the value that normally comes here. That becomes this one. So we'll point it out very soon. And then you square it, and we get negative 4 squared, which is negative 4 times negative 4 give us 16. And this 16, we add it to this side of the equation, and we have to repeat it on the right hand side so that it balances it. Okay, so here the right hand side become a perfect trinomial, and you see that what are two numbers you multiply, you get 16, which is going to be 4 and 4, but when you add, they have to give you negative 8. So that means negative 4 times negative 4, and that is what I was talking about. So as we are getting more understanding into this completing square, we realize that anytime when we divide, when we take our b and we divide it by 2, that's the number that normally comes here. So here, negative 15 plus 16 give us 1. The next step is we want to get rid of this square. And to get rid of a square, you take a square root. So we're going to take a square root on both sides. Immediately you take a square root, the square goes away, leaving us with this one. So we got x minus 4. On this side of it, we are expecting two answers we don't know, so we put plus and minus square root of 1. We want to solve x is being attached by a negative, so we have to get rid of this. So we have to add, and whenever we do that, we have to do the same thing here. So that becomes x is free now, and this 4 that we are adding here is here. We put our plus and minus here. But square root of 1 is 1. Okay, so for us to get our two answers, we're going to split it. So first answer is going to be 4 plus 1. That gives us 5. So that's one of them. And then the second solution, we write our 4. Now we write our minus, we just take away 1, and that gives us 3. So you realize that now we are developing what? The speed and the skills so that we can be a mastery on that. I hope it works. Have a wonderful, great, hopefully day.